On. I'm gonna be doing a special concept art stream tonight, just because I felt like just having some fun. I've been doing a lot of concept art lately, so I thought it might be interesting to take some suggestions. I already have a couple that I asked for on Discord, which I'm gonna knock out first, but I'll come back on and I'll ask for suggestions after the fact. So, yeah, I just wanted to show what that process looks like when I'm actually doing stuff for people. So, the first one was an ask to do an adaptation of Fulgore from Killer Instinct. So, I chose as something to reference the older game, like Killer Instinct 2. So, I'm going to use that as my reference, or at least, you know, what I'm basing my concept off of. And I'll show you generally what I do for all my stuff. So, a disclaimer real quick. If you're doing concept art for a company, you don't always have the same exact approach because it's kind of a per game thing. You have to take into consideration how they're presenting the characters in the game. Is it a side scroller? Is it a fighting game? Is it top down? Like, that'll change how you design elements, how you simplify pieces of a character, how you enlarge or make more detailed certain objects that the character has on them, whether that's weapons or clothing or whatever else. You know, if you're making stuff for like that Link's Awakening or that new Zelda, then focusing more on like simpler readable shapes at that small size is what would be the direction for the concept art. So that stuff all comes into consideration. It isn't just make the coolest character possible. So with that in mind, I'm going to be clearly adapting Fulgore from Killer Instinct 2 into a fighting game type of pose or a silhouette, so you know how he would display in this new game. So one thing I notice is he has like a curve to his spine, so I'm going to be using that. And I start with like gestural stuff. And I will like change things like as I go. Constantly kind of like erasing and moving things, but I try to keep things pretty gestural, so I'm not locked into anything. Can't tell if I want him to be like a Wolverine pose. I always like that crouched Wolverine type of thing for the characters with the claws. Like, that would be the first thing that I think of when I'm like coming up with some sort of silhouette, is like, what is the best option for a character that has a hunch that's that sort of way? Well, how would you pose them in the game? What emphasizes the thing that they have, like the claws? What's up with the porn music? I just got some jazzy playlist on. So I'm just playing with some of like the design elements that already exist in Fulgore. And I'll just pump up some of the like mechanical stuff. Any tips for learning how to sketch like this? It's insane for like 2 minutes of drawing. It's just repetition, and this brush in particular helps me. Just I like the feel of it, but it's mostly repetition, you know. Just practice a lot. Draw every day, all day, forever. Version of that. I just wanted to follow the arm better. So I would design a fighting game character this way because it's just how you're mostly going to see them. Yeah, today's stream is me taking concept art suggestions from the chat and showing you how I would do that concept for a job. How I would take something like that and adapt it. But you gotta wait for me to ask, because I already got suggestions from the Discord, so I'm going through that right now. We'll see what we can get done. So, as far as what I would submit for a job, I wouldn't submit this, but as far as like a singular concept, but if I had like a bunch of concepts that I did for different potential silhouettes for the character, they would be in this similar style where it would just be like a lot of these sketchy, inky, silhouette-y reads, and I would just see what was kind of clicking so that I have a direction. The last thing I want to do, especially in concept art, because of how quickly we're supposed to be generating ideas, I don't want to spend a ton of time on making a whole bunch of pretty finished stuff. I want to make sure that my time is being used wisely, so I try and do quicker stuff. In that way, when we move into doing like the final renders, we're kind of all in agreement on the general shape. But if I went through and I spent a ton of time trying to impress somebody with pretty artwork, you know, just to see like a final in the thing, and they didn't like it, then that's just a huge waste of time when you could have just been exploring silhouettes and ideas and things. So I would probably submit like a handful of these, maybe 4 or 5 loose ones of like every character that I was going to do. And then hopefully, if you're working closely with an art director, you get feedback relatively quickly, and then you can start to execute and build from there and just move on to your next one. But really, it's not doing any more than this. Like, don't go overboard. People don't need you to do like super polished stuff at this stage. Especially if you're like, you know, just in the beginning stages of the game's development. So the thing that I'm kind of leaning into, like, if you want to know my idea as far as design principles go, it's like you have to think, especially if you're kind of reimagining something from this era, you think of like, or at least doing it faithfully where you're not just tearing it all up and starting from scratch. You have to think about like what they were influenced by. And like you can clearly see it in Fulgore's mask with the wires coming out of it or the hoses. It's like obviously it's a Predator mask. You know, like look at his gauntlets with the weapons. Like that's literally a Predator weapon that's just glowing. So I'm thinking, what was the designer's intention? And I'm trying to take that and kind of elevate it. I'm like, okay, I won't veer away from those very fundamental influences on the character, because clearly that's why people like the character. So I won't deviate from that. I'll keep that stuff and then just make it more that idea even. Like just push it a little further, like leaning into the Predator mask shape and trying to make it less of like a weirder thing that's kind of popping off the body like the old Fulgore. But like that's what's in the back of my mind. Whether or not I'm successful at that, you know, that's a different story. But that's my intention when doing concept, especially for like legacy characters. So yeah, just so that you don't miss the whole point of the character as you design. Like you can kind of veer off course into this territory that's like, well, that's not why anybody likes that character territory, where you're just doing your own thing instead of adhering to what the character's like essence is. All right, so we can call that one. It's a cool silhouette though. I like it. I would like to finish that guy. That's a fun one. Okay, let's see who is next. Duck bunny or an owl bear? Huh. Let's try something stupid. There's a lot of pictures of ducks and bunnies. All right. So now this is where the chat's gonna come into play. Is Duck Bunny, can I do a poll or something in the chat? Can I do that? Start a poll. Okay. I'm gonna do a poll. Alright, the question is, what genre is Duck Bunny in? The options are horror, action, RPG boss, think like old school RPGs, and then a fighter. Let's see where you all fall. The poll is live. So far, oh my goodness. RPG boss is at the top. You could go anywhere with it, so I'm down. I don't know how long this poll's gonna run for. All right, I guess that's it. Let's end the poll. It is an RPG boss. RPG boss won by a lot. Okay, so RPG boss. I'm thinking Dragon Quest. So when I'm thinking Dragon Quest, I'm thinking the music. I'm thinking like that fun art style, kind of like not super dangerous, a little silly. So let's do that. What did I just do? Just switched brushes suddenly. Is that Bullwinkle? That's what I was just thinking. It doesn't have enough bunniness to it. but would make it look more like a bunny. The ears need to be way bigger. That's better. All right, now just for the hell of it. I'm looking at some Dragon Quest monsters. Yeah, that would make it way more Dragon Questy.
Jam. Looks so good.
My wife made Chickapaw plum jam.
We got some Chickapaw plums from down by the river.
Hold on.
It's so good. And even like has spice in it. Like, almost like
Oh wow.
Isn't that good?
Crazy.
That's so tasty.
What kind of plum? Chickapaw? I didn't know what it was. They grow where we live, so our son found them, and he was like, "Come over here," and then we just picked a bunch of them and looked them up to see what they were, and brought them home, and we ate some. Anyways, what I was going to say was that if this were a real job, I would mimic the style of whatever it is just to get it accurate. But yeah, that's about what I would submit. I'd submit like 7 sketches like this, and then it'd be like, I don't know what the hell you want. I did it. All right. So the next one that's up, let's see, do we have another one? Oh, Chernabog? Or Chernabog? Or Chernabog? I'm not sure. The Slavic black god of darkness, the one from Fantasia. I can do that. So let's start concepting what that would look like. I should probably get a better view of him before I just start going for it. Let's see how they did him in Fantasia. This guy's easy. So that's like the classic look. Oh, thanks, Sunraz. Alright. So what would I do? It's hard to say with this one because he's so cool. A lot of my concept stuff for like characters like this, I do a lot of exploration in like facial designs and stuff. So like if I don't get a good face on a character, it's kind of hard for me to feel good about it at all. Even if like the silhouette and everything of the character's cool, on something like this where like that expression is so much of the character, it's like so hard not to just focus on that. I know that the idea of the character is something other than like just the Fantasia guy, but that's what I'm using just because it's something I have like a clear visual on. I didn't have like a super solid description of the character. So if anybody's wondering what's happening, if you're just joining, I'm taking concept art suggestions. Yeah, I pretty much just made this guy the same guy. It is so hard to make it. Like, the problem with doing a design that's based off of like a timeless design is that it's very difficult to be like, oh, I know better, you know what I mean? Be like, oh, I'm gonna come in here and change it. Because then once something has lasted a long time like that, it's just what it is, you know? Like, all I could really do is maybe try and make it just more of what it is. As opposed to thinking I can like reinvent the wheel. Yes, this brush feels super hard to control until you just use it a ton. It's normal. I'm about to make one of these embarrassing redesign Concord videos. No, I will never. I'm telling you that this isn't a better design. This is just the same design drawn slightly differently. Mine has a big ass. Okay, so now we are opening it up to chat. You are going to submit your concept art suggestions. It can be something that's existing or a new idea. You can say something totally stupid to me, it doesn't matter. We have half an hour to make a bunch of these. We've already done 3. It'll be faster depending on, you know, how complex or silly or whatever. So I'll probably do the same thing I just did. I'll choose like a handful of the ones that I like from the chat here. I'll write them down and then I'll make a poll and you guys can vote on which one you want me to do. Maybe we'll go in order from there, or we'll just do a new one every time. But yeah, drop your suggestions in the chat. I'm patiently reading. I'm not gonna do Concord concepts. I'm not gonna make fun of a game. I'm not that guy. I'm not about to go like, hey, you know those people who are having a hard time. Let me dogpile on that. Singing sword. That's a funny one. Alright. Redesign how elves look. Hell yeah. I would just end up doing like, you know, Frank Baum stuff. Big old ears. Vomiting goblin. There you go. Now we're talking. Okay. Okay, I have it. I'm just gonna make a poll now. These are just the ones that stood out to me in no particular order. Just for either recognizability or nice and simple design ideas. Looking to see if there's any that stand out to me still while I'm making this poll. I'm more picking them because I'd be able to do more stuff with some of these. There's actually, okay, I'm including some of these just because I have preferential things, not because they're funny, just because I'd like to try it. So anyways, here's your poll. You can start voting. And we'll see where we end up. Poll is live. Remember, I'm going to be doing concept art of any of these, so whatever wins. I'll just wait for the poll in the meantime. This playlist is about to end. Odd Egyptian god. You need to see that gnome. I'm open to whatever. Let me see if that beat everything by like a large... Okay, it looks like voting is done. So it goes Egyptian god and gnome. I agree. All right. So now I get to do whatever I want. Okay. What kind of Egyptian god do I want to do? So sometimes if I'm doing like a really complex design, like for instance this one being like a lavish god, right? So specifically in concept art, I'll start this way. It doesn't mean that like my final submission will be this way, but I'll start with like the symmetry feature that you can use in Krita and draw, you know, both sides at the same time. Pulling up reference a little bit. So I'm gonna do like an adaptation of Horus, and I'm not really trying to do like a super accurate representation of anything. I'm just trying to be loose and keep some like design elements in that like Egyptian vibe, but I'm adapting them into something else. So this is like a quick way to kind of rough together like a basic design thing for me to reference. So like I'll make these just for myself. And then when I do my real concept art of the character, I tend to just use this as like a reference. So again, just taking concept art, suggestions from the chat, and then trying to pull something together. So with this, I'm just trying to think of just how exactly I want to take the Egyptian god idea, the lavish Egyptian god, and I'm just trying to like adapt it into something that, like, you know, if somebody actually asked me to do this for a job, this is probably my first instinct, and then I pare back and kind of go from there based off of feedback. Yeah, Wigglewood, this is the art zone. Make sure this is symmetrical. Probably gotta move that a little. So I'm basically going for like an essence of what this character might look like. You know, these are all the things that would flow off of it and whatever. And then from that point, you know, I could use this as a reference, change the angle. I probably do like a lot of stuff to keep it from being too symmetrical. Cooler. So anyway, you can see it didn't take like a ton of time to just like rough something like this together for me. And then I just use stuff like this a lot when I'm, you know, building out a character design. I just try and look for some like symmetry, especially in like complex, like boss looking characters and that sort of thing. Like if they're huge and super detailed and all that, it's like I just use this, you know, symmetry feature just to like quickly see the design, and then from there I can, you know, do my own thing with it and start to change it. But it's more or less like the speed at which I can get the look of it like out of my head and into my car. It's a Billy Ocean reference. All right. There's a lavish Egyptian god. At least a rough concept sketch of one. Hopefully that's readable. But I would do a bunch of these. These things are like easy to, you know, if I feel like there's stuff that I need to fix or whatever, like I can always go through and just like change the whole thing. Like it doesn't take me super long. All right. Next thing we're doing, and I know that I did a poll, but it has to be this way. The gnome with the elephant trunk and the lobster arms coming up. So we got a lobster. It's one of our references. Well, we got to do it. This will be the last one for tonight since we're running up on the end of the stream. But this has been fun. I like how stupid all these. There are people who think it's funny to have a gnome flipping you off in your yard. Is that a version of Calvin peeing on something? All right. So this would just be a monster manual sketch. I think it has to be. So I'm gonna be super loose with this, and then we'll do a refinement one. This will just be gestural. So it won't look like a whole lot. Coming full circle to full gore. Another one of these poses. Thanks to chat for the suggestion. I've had a lot of fun winging concepts. Hopefully this stream was helpful. I'll probably do this again. This is a lot of fun. Just coming up with stuff. It's like my favorite thing to do in my job. All right. What, you thought I would just wing this? Yeah, right. Oh my goodness, I'm using the wrong layer. We're gonna do like a pretty quick kind of refinement drawing. Not gonna do a ton with it, just to kind of get across a little bit more value in things. In a normal process, I would do this. I would have this like refinement that you see me doing now, and then I would do like a painting pass over top to make it less of like a sketchy thing. Sorry, Regal, I'm trying not to slow down my momentum. You can watch other streams for that. I've done that before. It's just always, you know, it's like one person in the chat wants to see that. So I try and just more or less answer those type of like brush questions like every once in a while, but I'm trying not to do it every stream, otherwise the streams all sound exactly the same. I mean, all I really did was just make the brush size small, and then to like 1 pixel, and then shut off the color that was on the brush. I zoom way out to keep the focus on just the most important bits so that I don't over detail stuff that doesn't matter. It makes for a terrible viewing experience, but makes the concept better, I think, or at least more focused. You don't want to be caught over detailing a concept. Don't waste your time. Just get to the meat of it.
taking it home, pigs. Nice song. So this here is really like, this is enough to sell an idea, you know? It's just like as far as a concept goes, where I can submit a initial sketch to get a good read on whether or not something's working from the art director. This is like that sort of thing, you know? Not that anybody would ever ask me to do this besides you all, but same principle. This is how I would approach all of that. And then like after this, it would be a lot of like painting after the, you know, the initial sketch is done. Like here's this concept. I would lay in probably a little bit more lighting, you know, like a good example, just to like get a read. I'll show you like if I feel like the design sometimes in a concept is too complicated, I'll just drop in a shadow to show spatially kind of just where I mean everything to be. So I'll do like a multiply layer and just quickly knock in a shadow. I don't think this one really needs that, but just to show you. You know, any other information just makes it like slightly easier to read. Anyway, so that's just an idea of how I would, drop in a light shadow to give it a little bit more depth. But that's about it. The next thing I would do if I did anything is add in like extra lighting to the sketch once like a shadow's there. But you don't have to do that. I mean, anything makes it kind of pop more, but most of the time you're going for efficiency. You're going for speed, and whatever the minimal read is good enough if it gets the idea across. Because I can knock out like a lot of these, so I'll do a bunch for like a specific I'll do like kind of a scatter shot idea of a bunch of different approaches to something, and then once we narrow that down, I'll do just like a refined version, and most of the time it doesn't go past that. I don't end up having to do like a bunch of different iterations of the same idea. I just kind of refine it and finish it. But anyway, I hope that this was cool, helpful, or whatever. And yeah, it's just the whole initial sketch phase of a concept art. Here's the first idea kind of thing. So let's go back. We had Fulgore from Killer Instinct, this duck bunny, I forget what his name was, Chernabog or something like that, demon from Fantasia, this lavish Egyptian god, and then our lobster elephant gnome. But yeah, thanks everybody. This was cool. I'll do this again, because this is a lot of fun for me too. And come by next Thursday if you want to support. You can always support in the Patreon. I wasn't saying that really the past few weeks because I hadn't been doing a lot for like a month and a half, and like I finally have a new video coming out on there, so I'm happy if people come and go from the Patreon depending on content. The Discord's through there as well, but I'll have a full long tutorial of how I'm doing my current process for all like my marketing work and final artwork. So I did a portrait for that just for old time's sake, and yeah, you can check that out soon. I just have to finish editing, but the whole thing's recorded and all, and yeah, that should be up. I'll say sometime mid next week, I'm guessing. Hopefully sooner than that, but that's what I'm gonna. That's my Murphy's Law. Probably that date. But yeah, see you all. Thanks again.